So an executive producer is usually actually a person who does have a financial interest in the film, or maybe they are a person who gathered money for the film, and that was what they did. For example, what I did on Glory at Sea, which was the Ben Zeitlin short film that preceded Beasts of the Southern Wild, I basically came down there as essentially a PA. I mean, I was there. It wasn't a very large crew, but I was really interested in what Ben was doing. I did whatever needed doing. I had a job sort of in Washington, D.C. at the time, so I would just fly down when I could. And at a certain point, we ran out of money, and I held a fundraiser in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm from, to try to gather some money to get the thing going again. So that's why I'm an executive producer on Glory at Sea, is because I raised that money. But I was not there for the extent of the production. So I'm not a producer in that film. I was there in fits and spurts, but I was able to bring some money into the production. So, okay. Now, other responsibilities of producers. We'll talk a lot about this. And again, it depends on each project or each company. You know, sometimes I work in a company of other people, and we all have strengths and weaknesses. It also depends on a per project basis. There might be a project where I'm more naturally apt to take on a certain kind of responsibility, and then on the next project, because of the director or whatever the project is, I might lend a different kind of responsibility entirely. So strategizing, but here's just some. Strategizing about financing and managing the financial partners, which we sort of already talked about. Constructing a budget and then workshopping that budget in a way that bridges the project's needs to its financial reality. So sort of knowing how to, knowing what the reality is, right? And knowing what the director's vision is, and trying to marry those two in something that's a little bit of, I don't want to say compromise, but something that best does that, but in the real world. Problem solving at all stages, what we'll just call putting out fires. This is more like an on-set kind of thing. There's more fires on set, I think, than, well, maybe not necessarily, I don't want to say that, but basically problem solving, knowing what to do when things go wrong. During production, managing relationships between the crew, making sure everybody is happy and communicating and understanding each other so that you're getting what you need to get done, working towards the same interest. Later, fostering the right kind of partners that you're going to work with in distribution or in that phase of the film. And strategically thinking about the life of the film once it is finished. As a counterpoint, I'll sort of get into the line producer. Now, I just thought of this right now, but I hope it makes a little bit of sense. In terms of the practicality of making a film and the creativity of making a film, you can talk about producing being, you know, both ends, potentially having both ends of the spectrum. Now, what we were just talking about is you know, working with a director to kind of collaborate and make their vision happen. That happens sort of more towards the creative side and closer to the director. On the other side, I'd say towards the practicality of making a film is the kind of producing that's more like line producing. So that means you're dealing with, you're running basically the operation of the film production. You're working with a production company, if there is one, on all the fun stuff like, you know, payroll and insurance and all that sort of thing. You're managing with your unit production manager vendor relationships. Okay, so we're here in San Francisco. Who are we going to use for catering? You know, who are we going to use for, I don't know, any number of things. What kind of in-kind donations can we get, if any? That sort of thing. You're also, and that comes in part and parcel with managing the external relations of a set. So making sure that people on the ground who aren't involved in the film are content with the, let's see, that footprint of the set itself. And you're the stepping stone to the producer who can sort of be the in-between between the line producer and the director. Now let's get on to the other side of producing, the creative producer. Now, this is a term that like doesn't always apply. Some directors are honestly just sort of like, here's the script, it is what it is, you guys figure out how to make it, that's it, right? That's sort of how they work, and God bless producers who can deal with that and who can make that movie happen for that director. I like working in a little bit more of a collaborative environment in which the director is sort of looking for a little bit of, or open to creative collaboration, because I think it can be really essential to have a person in the producing team who understands what the director's trying to do really, really well, and who the director trusts completely, because that makes things, when you come to actually making the film, a little bit easier. You know, they know that somebody who's looking out for the actual operation of the film knows what they're trying to achieve. Some other parts of being the creative producer, which is a term that you kind of like hear tossed around more and more these days, is you know, you could work directly with the director on the script if they're open to it, either bouncing ideas off of each other, or they use you as a sounding board, or you know, you could even provide like kind of a timeline for them. A lot of times people need to feel like they're on a deadline, and writing in a vacuum can be very hard. You know, like, I don't know when I'm supposed to turn this in or whatever, and you say, well, here, let's establish a kind of timetable. As the creative producer, you can gather key creative collaborators for the director, meaning, for example, like the director of photography or the production designer. These are sort of heads of, you know, like heads of departments that are very, very crucial to the making of the film. They're going to determine what the film looks like, what the world of the movie looks like, and it's very, very important for you to find the right people for the director, given what they're trying to achieve. Putting those nominees in front of them and talking about what you think their strengths and weaknesses are, or why they might be a good fit, and letting the director sort of parse it out.